Security! There's a black man wandering around. Get him out. Sir, I'm an invited guest. Invited? Scotch-soaked laughter. Your people serve champagne here. They don't drink it. I represent Titan Logistics. Never heard of it. Some ghetto startup? He grabs the man's lapel. This suit. Fake, just like you. Trying to sneak into white spaces where you don't belong. Please let go. Garrett, teach this boy some manners. First glass, red wine, splashed across his face. Oops. Second glass, down his chest, laughter erupting. Still standing there, stubborn like all of them. Third glass, soaking through. $500 crumpled, shoved into his mouth. Swallow it, boy. Only money you'll ever taste. He spits it out quietly, wine dripping from his chin. 4 executives, one satisfying laugh. They had no idea who they just humiliated. But they're about to find out. And when they do, their $800 million world will collapse. Let me take you back 12 hours before that wine hit his face. Manhattan. Meridian Equity Partners headquarters. 42nd floor. The corner office with the view that cost more than most people's houses. Malcolm Elijah Griffin stood at the window. $50 million in art on the walls behind him. $4.5 billion in assets under management. 12 companies in his portfolio. But today his mind was on just one. His phone buzzed. Rachel Morrison, COO of Titan Logistics. Renewal documents are ready, sir. Catherine Cole wants a call next week to finalize the contract. Cancel the call. Sir? 3 years you've handled Harrington Cole. You've done excellent work. But this renewal is different. $800 million company, 5 more years. I want to meet them myself. Rachel paused. You've never wanted direct involvement before. Time to change that. They have a charity gala tonight in Connecticut. I'll attend. Should I arrange an introduction with Catherine? No, I want to observe first. See who they really are when there's no business on the table. Character reveals itself in social settings. Malcolm hung up. His assistant, Jerome Simmons, entered. Former Marine, 6 years of loyal service, the kind of man who noticed everything. Invitation came through, Jerome said. But there's a problem. What kind? It was sent to Titan's office. Not to you directly. Addressed to Titan Logistics representative. Your name isn't anywhere on it. Malcolm turned from the window. 3 years of partnership, $800 million company, and they addressed the invitation to representative? Gets worse. Jerome pulled up records on his tablet. I checked our files. You've requested direct meetings with HC leadership 8 times over 3 years, face-to-face meetings. All 8 were declined. By whom? Same person every time. Victor Morrison, their VP of Legal. Malcolm filed the name, Victor Morrison. What reasons did he give? Different excuses each time. Mrs. Cole prefers working with operational teams. Owner involvement not necessary for routine business. Rachel Morrison is authorized to represent Titan fully. Routine business. Malcolm almost smiled. $800 million is routine now. That evening, Malcolm's black sedan cut through the Connecticut countryside. Old money territory, estates hidden behind ancient trees. Wealth so deep it didn't need to advertise. The Harrington estate emerged like a castle from the darkness. 400 cars, crystal chandeliers visible through 20-foot windows. The kind of party where a single centerpiece cost more than a teacher's annual salary. At the security checkpoint, the guard studied the invitation. Titan Logistics. Representative. He looked up, looked at Malcolm, looked at Jerome. 2 black men in expensive suits. His eyes narrowed. You are? The owner. I'll need to verify that. 3 minutes of radio calls, 3 minutes of standing in the cold. Meanwhile, a white couple in a Mercedes rolled up. The guard waved them through with a smile. No verification needed. Finally, you're clear, but there's no VIP seating assigned. You'll have to find your own spot. Not a problem. Inside, Malcolm scanned the ballroom. 400 of America's wealthiest families. Diamonds, champagne, the smell of inherited money. He spotted Catherine Cole near the orchestra, networking with donors. He recognized her from company reports, but they'd never met. She didn't know he was here, didn't know what he looked like. Near the bar, 4 men laughed too loud. Bradley Harrington III, Garrett Cole, Preston Ashby, Mitchell Warren. Old money, drunk confidence, the kind of men who'd never been told no. Malcolm caught a fragment of their conversation. Titan Logistics contract? Boring stuff. Rachel Morrison handles everything. I've never even seen the owner. $800 million company and you've never met the guy? Why would I? That's what operational people are for. As long as the trucks show up, who cares? In the corner, Malcolm noticed something else. An older man watching him, whispering to someone beside him. Charles Harrington, 76, the patriarch. And Victor Morrison, the gatekeeper. Charles saw Malcolm enter, said something to Victor. Victor nodded, but Victor didn't approach Malcolm, didn't introduce him to anyone, didn't alert the other executives. Strange. Then Catherine Cole walked past, right by Malcolm, close enough to touch. She didn't recognize him. Why would she? She only worked with Rachel. Never seen Malcolm's photo. He was a name in contracts, not a face at galas. From across the room, Charles watched, a small smile forming. Malcolm didn't know it yet. His invisibility wasn't an accident. It was designed. Near the back tables, Malcolm noticed an elderly woman struggling with her cane. Eleanor Harrington, 86 years old, the family matriarch, lost in the crowd of people half her age. No one helped her, too busy networking, too important to notice. Malcolm walked over. "Ma'am, may I assist you?" He offered his arm, guided her gently to her seat. "Thank you, young man." Her voice was warm, genuine. "Such manners. What's your name?" "Malcolm Griffin." The name meant nothing to her. She wasn't involved in business anymore. "And what do you do, Malcolm?" "I own a company that works with your family's business." "How wonderful. You're very polite. That's rare these days. I like you." That's when Bradley appeared. Garrett, Preston, and Mitchell trailing like hyenas behind a lion. "Grandma, let me help you." "A nice young man already helped me, Bradley." Bradley looked at Malcolm. Quick assessment. The kind of evaluation that takes 2 seconds and dismisses a person entirely. Black. Nice suit, but not a tuxedo. No Rolex, no VIP badge, no one he recognized. Conclusion. Nobody. "Thanks, buddy. I've got her from here." "Of course. Enjoy your evening, Mrs. Harrington." Malcolm turned to leave. Give them space. Garrett stepped in his path. "Hold on. You work for the catering company?" "No." "Valet service? Security?" "I'm a guest." Mitchell laughed, sharp, mocking. "A guest? At a Harrington Gala? Sure you are. I represent Titan Logistics." Bradley and Garrett exchanged looks. The name was familiar, somewhere in the back of their minds, but the connection didn't form. Titan, right. That logistics vendor. Bradley waved his hand dismissively. "Since when do we invite vendors to family events?" Titan is a strategic partner. 3 years, $800 million company. Partner, vendor, whatever. Same thing. Bradley raised his wine glass. "Well, welcome to the party, Mr. Logistics Man." He stepped forward, pretended to stumble. The wine hit Malcolm's face first. Red, expensive, cold. "Oops, clumsy me." He wasn't stumbling. He was laughing. Nothing made him trip. Garrett moved in immediately. Let me help clean that. Oh no. Second glass. Down Malcolm's chest, the white shirt turning crimson. Still standing there? Preston sneered. Stubborn, just like all of them. Third glass. Mitchell this time, soaking through to skin. Preston threw a napkin. It hit Malcolm's face before falling to the floor. There you go, boy. Clean yourself up. Mitchell had his phone out, recording, laughing. Classic Brad. This is gold. Malcolm stood motionless, wine dripping from his chin, staining his $3,000 suit. 8 seconds of absolute stillness. Bradley grew uncomfortable with the silence. He expected anger, shouting, something he could use. Come on, that's Chateau Margaux. $400 a bottle. You should be honored. He pulled out a money clip, thick with bills, peeled off 500s, crumpled them, shoved them into Malcolm's breast pocket. For the shirt and the dry cleaning, keep the change. He patted Malcolm's chest. Twice, condescending. Consider it a tip. For the help. Malcolm reached into his pocket, pulled out the crumpled bills. A server walked past. Young black man. Name tag. Derek. From Mr. Harrington, Malcolm said quietly, handing him the cash. He appreciates your service tonight. Derek understood, took the money, nodded with dignity. Malcolm turned back to Bradley. Titan Logistics, $800 million company. I own 67%. Remember the name Malcolm Griffin? Bradley's laughter exploded. You own it? Right! And I'm the Pope. You'll remember. Soon. Malcolm walked away. The executives laughed harder. Best entertainment of the evening. They didn't notice Mitchell's phone was still recording, or that someone had just airdropped the video outside the building. Malcolm moved toward the exit. Steady pace. Controlled. Jerome intercepted him in the foyer. Sir, do you want me to... No. Bring the car around. What about the renewal meeting? That's why we came. There won't be a renewal. Sir, that's our biggest client. 800 million. Some things cost more than money, Jerome. Behind them, Bradley noticed his victim leaving. The black man he'd just put in his place was walking away, not apologizing, not cowering, not begging for forgiveness. Unacceptable. Hey! Logistics guy! Malcolm didn't stop. Bradley pushed through the crowd. His hand clamped down on Malcolm's shoulder from behind, spun him around. I'm not done with you. I am. You come into my family's house, act all high and mighty, then just walk away like nothing happened. Malcolm's voice was ice. I don't own this house, but I own what keeps it running. Bradley didn't understand. His grip tightened. Garrett, Preston, and Mitchell caught up, surrounding Malcolm, 4 against 1. Problem here, Brad? This vendor is claiming he owns Titan. Vendor with an attitude problem. Preston shook his head. They never learn. Mitchell still had his phone out, still recording. This is premium content. Malcolm looked directly into the camera lens. Keep that video. You're going to need it. Bradley squeezed harder. Is that a threat? Are you threatening a Harrington? I'm stating facts. Your family owns 18% of HC through Charles's shares. Institutional investors own the rest. Titan Logistics, an $800 million company, is the largest partner those investors have. You don't own anything, Bradley. You're hired help with a famous name. The words hit like ice water. Bradley's face reddened, veins pulsing in his neck. Who the hell do you think you are? Someone you should have Googled before tonight. The commotion drew attention. Heads turning, whispers spreading. Someone get security. Who is that? What's happening? Catherine Cole pushed through the crowd. The chairman of the board. Real power in a room full of pretenders. What is going on here? Bradley released Malcolm, smoothed his jacket, switched to charm mode. "Nothing, Aunt Catherine. Just a misunderstanding with one of the vendors." Catherine looked at Malcolm, wine-soaked shirt, straight posture, zero fear in his eyes. Something about him didn't fit the vendor narrative. "Who are you?" Before Malcolm could answer, Jerome appeared at his side. "The car is ready, Mr. Griffin." Griffin. The name hit Catherine like electricity. Griffin? As in... Malcolm Griffin, founder of Meridian Equity Partners, majority owner of Titan Logistics. Catherine's face went white. Titan? But I've been working with Rachel Morrison for 3 years. Rachel is my COO. She runs day-to-day operations. I own 67% of the company, $800 million valuation. You're the owner? Yes, Mrs. Cole. 3 years of partnership, and this is the first time we've met face-to-face. I requested direct meetings 8 times. All 8 were declined. Declined? I never declined anything. I know you didn't. Someone made sure you never got those requests. Someone made sure we never met. Someone wanted me to remain invisible. Malcolm's eyes drifted across the ballroom, found Charles Harrington in the corner, still watching, still calm, not surprised at all. Catherine followed his gaze. Her face shifted from confusion to horror. She turned to Bradley. "Bradley, please tell me you didn't know." "How could I know? I've never seen him before in my life. That's exactly the problem." She looked at Garrett, Preston, Mitchell. "Did any of you know who he was?" Silence. Guilty silence. "You just poured wine on the owner of our largest partner. $800 million. Our entire supply chain depends on his company." Bradley's face drained of color. "The logistics guy is actually..." Mitchell slowly lowered his phone. Video still recording. Evidence of their destruction still accumulating. Malcolm straightened his ruined jacket with dignity. "Mrs. Cole, I came tonight to finally meet your leadership team. After 3 years of letting Rachel handle everything, I wanted to see who you really are. What kind of people I'm doing business with." He looked down at his wine-soaked shirt. "Now I know." He turned toward the door. "Mr. Griffin, please," Catherine started. He didn't look back. Catherine spun on Bradley. "My office, now. All 4 of you." Charles Harrington watched from his corner, everything proceeding exactly as planned. Griffin humiliated, partnership doomed, his 15-year wait finally paying off. But Charles had forgotten one variable: Mitchell's video. It had already left the building, already reached Morgan Webb, freelance journalist, professional exposer of corporate secrets. She watched it once, twice, 3 times, started typing. 90 minutes later, the entire world would know what happened at the Harrington Gala, and the Harrington empire would begin its collapse. Malcolm's sedan cut through the Connecticut night, rain starting to fall, matching his mood. Jerome watched him through the rearview mirror. "Backup video sent to Victoria. She's preserving everything." "Good." 3 years, sir. 8 meeting requests, all blocked. Someone wanted you invisible. Victor Morrison. But he's just the tool. The question is, whose tool? Back at the Harrington estate, Catherine Cole convened an emergency meeting. Her private office, door locked. Bradley, Garrett, Preston, Mitchell, all silent, all terrified. 3 years. Catherine's voice was barely controlled. $800 million partner. And not one of you knew what the owner looked like? "I don't handle operations," Bradley tried. "You're the executive vice president." "I only look at numbers on spreadsheets," Garrett offered. "You're the chief financial officer. Those numbers come from Titan." Catherine pressed her palms against her desk, breathed, focused. "Who manages the Titan relationship on our end?" Preston answered carefully. Rachel Morrison contacts us from their side. On our side, Victor Morrison handles the legal framework and communications. Victor. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Get him in here. Now. 5 minutes later, Victor Morrison entered. Calm, professional. Not a hair out of place. Why didn't anyone know Malcolm Griffin? Catherine demanded. The owner has always preferred a hands-off approach. Rachel Morrison is the designated representative. He requested meetings 8 times. You blocked every single one. Standard protocol. Owner involvement isn't necessary for routine operational matters. $800 million is routine? Victor didn't flinch, didn't blink. Who recommended you for this position, Victor? A pause, barely perceptible. Mr. Charles Harrington, 18 months ago. Catherine's blood ran cold. Meanwhile, the internet was catching fire. Morgan Webb posted first. Twitter thread, midnight. Just in from inside the Harrington Charity Gala. 4 executives pour wine on a black man they assumed was catering staff. Plot twist, he owns their $800 million partner company. They worked together for 3 years, never knew his face. How is that possible? Thread. Attached, the video. Full. Unedited. Every slur, every laugh, every drop of wine. 30 minutes, 1.5 million views. 1 hour, 6 million views. 2 hours, 14 million views. Comments exploded. 3 years, and they didn't know his face? $800 million partner, and they call him a vendor? Someone kept him invisible on purpose. This isn't incompetence. This is design. Hashtag Harrington Gate, trending #1 worldwide. Business journalists confirmed the identity within the hour. Breaking. The man in the viral Harrington video is Malcolm Griffin, founder of Meridian Equity Partners. Net worth, $1.8 billion. He owns 67% of Titan Logistics, an $800 million company that has been Harrington Coal's largest strategic partner for 3 years. HC executives had never met him. The question everyone is asking, why? Stock futures moved immediately. Harrington Coal dropped 8% overnight. Internet investigators started digging. 3 years. Biggest partner. No one knew his face? This isn't an accident. Someone deliberately kept him invisible. Who is Victor Morrison? He blocked all the meetings. Charles Harrington brought Victor in 18 months ago. What is the connection? The conspiracy wasn't a theory anymore. In his Connecticut mansion, Charles Harrington sat in his study, watching the coverage, sipping 40-year-old bourbon. His phone rang. Victor. It's everywhere. What do we do? Charles smiled. Nothing. Let it burn. When Griffin terminates the partnership, we blame cultural differences. Replace Titan with Morrison Logistics, your cousin's company. Problem solved. But the video? Will blow over. Everything does. Charles hung up. He'd waited 15 years for this. Malcolm Griffin was finally going to pay. 11 p.m. Harrington Coal headquarters, emergency war room. Sandra Mitchell, head of public relations, looked like she'd aged 10 years in 3 hours. Phones ringing non-stop. Email servers crashing. Stock price in freefall. We need a statement. 30 minutes ago. Catherine paced the room. Saying what exactly? Apologize. Full accountability. Get ahead of the narrative. The legal counsel shook his head. Be careful. Don't admit anything that creates liability for lawsuits. We have 25 million views and climbing. We don't have the luxury of careful. Catherine stopped pacing. There's an angle people keep pushing online. Why didn't we know our biggest partner's face after 3 years? How do we explain that? Sandra winced. That's significantly harder to address. From the corner, Victor spoke. Smooth as always. Corporate structure. Silent ownership. Common practice in private equity. The owner preferred to remain behind the scenes. We respected that preference. Catherine stared at him for a long moment. You seem to have an answer for everything, Victor. 1 a.m. Official statement released. Harrington Coal Industries deeply regrets the incident at our charity gala. Due to corporate structure and remote work practices that began during the pandemic, in-person contact with some partners has been limited. Mr. Bradley Harrington has expressed sincere remorse for any misunderstanding that occurred. We are committed to reviewing our partnership protocols. The internet responded instantly, brutally. Corporate structure? That's your excuse? They had 3 years to meet their $800 partner. COVID ended 2 years ago. Try again. Someone kept him invisible on purpose and they're blaming remote work? This statement is insulting. They think we're stupid. Ratio, 96% negative, 4% bots, 7 a.m. Bradley made it worse. Against all advice, he posted an Instagram video. Unscripted, unwise. I want to address what happened last night. I had no idea who that gentleman was. I have never been in a meeting with him, never seen his photograph, never heard his name. That is not my fault. If there's a failure here, it's in corporate communications. Not in my treatment of someone I genuinely believed was event staff. The real question should be, why wasn't I informed? I'm the victim of bad internal processes. The explosion was nuclear. He's blaming the company for his own racism. Even if he didn't know, why would you pour wine on any stranger? Genuinely believed was event staff, and that makes it okay to humiliate them? Notice he didn't apologize. He explained. There's a difference. This man called someone boy and shoved money in his mouth. That's not a misunderstanding. #FireBrad joined Harrington Gate in trending, both top 10 worldwide. Through all of this, Malcolm Griffin said nothing. Every major outlet called: CNN, MSNBC, Fox, New York Times, Washington Post. Politicians offered support. Civil rights organizations offered platforms. PR firms offered crisis management. He declined everything. At home, Vanessa found him in his study, staring at the coverage. The whole world wants to hear from you. My silence is louder than any statement. What are you doing? Investigating. 3 years of invisibility wasn't an accident, Vanessa. Someone designed it. Someone wanted this to happen. I need to know why before I say anything publicly. Victoria Collins released a statement on Titan's behalf. Titan Logistics confirms the incident involving our majority owner, Mr. Malcolm Griffin. We are conducting a thorough internal review of our partnership with Harrington Coal Industries. All future business decisions are pending the completion of this review. Wall Street translated immediately. Partnership could end. Stock dropped another 7%. Total damage, 15% and climbing. Analysts panicked on morning shows. If Titan terminates this partnership, Harrington Coal's supply chain collapses within weeks. There's no replacement at this scale. This could be an extinction-level event for the company. Then Denise Harrington entered the conversation. Bradley's sister, Charles's daughter, board member, family insider. Twitter thread from @DeniseHTruth, posted at noon. I'm Denise Harrington, Bradley's sister, Charles's daughter. I've been silent for 30 years. No more. What happened to Malcolm Griffin wasn't a random incident. It was designed, orchestrated, planned by my own father. 3 years ago, my father Charles opposed bringing Titan in as a partner. He lost that board vote. He's been plotting to end the partnership ever since. He placed Victor Morrison in the legal department specifically to keep Malcolm Griffin invisible. The Gala incident was the culmination of a 3-year plan. Create a scandal, blame cultural differences, end the partnership, replace Titan with a company controlled by Victor's family. I have the emails. I have the proof. I'm preparing to release everything. 9 million views in 4 hours. Charles Harrington watched from his study, his own daughter betraying him. He picked up the phone. I need Meridian Equity investigated. Find anything. Create doubt. Destroy his credibility before he destroys ours. 50 years of favors. Time to use them all. Day 3 after the gala. Malcolm sat in Meridian Equity's secure conference room. Victoria Collins had spent 72 hours without sleep. Documents covered every surface. I traced every communication between Titan and Harrington Cole over the past 3 years. What did you find? 8 requests from you for direct meetings with HC leadership. 8 denials. Every single one processed through Victor Morrison. The reasons? Owner involvement unnecessary for operational matters. Titan adequately represented by COO Rachel Morrison. HC leadership prefers established communication channels. Different words, same result. You were kept away. What about from their side? Did anyone at HC try to reach me? Victoria pulled up another file. This is where it gets interesting. I talked to Rachel. She said Catherine Cole mentioned wanting to meet the owner multiple times. Direct quote. Catherine asked at least 4 times when she could meet Mr. Griffin personally. Malcolm leaned forward. Catherine wanted to meet me? Yes. But Rachel told her you preferred a hands-off approach, that you didn't like personal meetings, that everything should go through operational channels. I never said that. I know, because Victor Morrison told Rachel that HC preferred working with her directly, that owner involvement would complicate the relationship. He manipulated both sides. Perfect isolation. Exactly. You thought HC didn't want to meet you. HC thought you didn't want to meet them. Victor controlled all information flow. Neither side knew they were being played. Malcolm stood, walked to the window. The city spread below like a chessboard. But why? What's the endgame? Victoria opened another file, older documents, yellowed at the edges. I dug deeper, found something from 2009, the Blackwood acquisition. My first major deal at Meridian. We won the competitive bid for a Harrington Cole subsidiary. Charles Harrington wanted to sell it to a friend at below market price. The board overruled him because your offer was 20% higher. You embarrassed him in front of his own board. Malcolm nodded slowly. I remember. Charles called me afterward, very calm, very cold. Said I would live to regret that decision. He put it in writing. Victoria slid a document across the table. Internal memo. Charles Harrington. Dated 2009. The Blackwood outcome is unacceptable. Griffin's firm should never have been considered for this acquisition. His type does not belong in our circles. I will ensure this situation does not repeat itself. CH. Malcolm stared at the words. His type? 15 years, Malcolm. He waited 15 years. That evening, a courier delivered a package to Malcolm's home. Plain brown envelope, no return address. Inside, a USB drive. Handwritten note. Mr. Griffin, my father has destroyed many people over the decades. Here is proof of what he did to you. Use it wisely. D.H. Denise Harrington. Malcolm plugged the drive into a secure laptop. Victoria's jaw dropped as files opened. Email 1. Charles to Victor, 18 months ago. Your primary task upon joining HC, ensure Malcolm Griffin remains a name buried in files, never a face in meetings. HC leadership must not develop any personal relationship with him. When the time comes to end the Titan partnership, I want no one fighting to keep it. The less they know him, the easier he is to discard. Email 2. Charles to Victor, 1 week before the gala. Griffin has been added to the gala guest list through Titan's general invitation. Good. Do not brief any executives about his identity. Do not circulate his photograph. Let's observe how they treat a black man they don't recognize at a Harrington family event. Natural behavior will provide all the justification we need. Email 3. Charles to Victor. Day after the gala. The incident exceeded expectations. When Griffin terminates the partnership, and he will, we cite irreconcilable cultural differences publicly. Privately, we transition supply chain to Morrison Logistics within 6 months. Your cousin's company is prepared. Our people get the contract. Griffin gets humiliated. Justice served. Malcolm's hands trembled slightly. He didn't just enable this. He orchestrated it. The whole thing. From the beginning. More files. HR records. 2015 through 2023. 31 formal complaints of discrimination at HC events and facilities. 23 specifically involved race. All marked resolved internally. 0 disciplinary actions taken. 0 policy changes implemented. Settlement records. $4.2 million paid over 8 years to silence 11 employees, all bound by NDAs, all processed through Victor Morrison's legal department. 11 people, Malcolm said quietly. Paid to disappear. How many others weren't paid? Just fired? Just destroyed? Victoria shook her head. This is conspiracy, wire fraud, possibly RICO violations. He built an entire system. Malcolm picked up his phone. Dialed. Charles answered on the second ring. Calm, amused. Mr. Griffin, finally calling to discuss terms of surrender? I have your emails. All of them. The communications with Victor, the 15-year plan, everything. Silence. 3 seconds. 4. Emails can be fabricated. These came from your own daughter. Still want to claim they're fake? Longer silence. What do you want? 48 hours. Resign from every position at HC. Surrender your voting shares. Issue a public apology. Or everything goes to federal prosecutors and every media outlet in the country. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice. That's more than you ever gave anyone you destroyed. You don't know who you're fighting, boy. I know exactly who you are. A man who spent 15 years planning revenge because I won a business deal fairly. An architect of a system that silenced 11 victims. Your era ends now. We'll see about that. Click. Charles started making calls. Old friends, powerful friends, favors accumulated over 50 years. I need pressure on Meridian Equity, regulatory inquiries, credit freezes, stories questioning Griffin's background, everything, now. War had officially begun. The counterattack came faster than Malcolm expected. Wall Street Journal, front page, day 4. Questions surface about Meridian Equity founder's early career. Sources familiar with the matter suggest that Malcolm Griffin's rapid rise in private equity may have involved questionable partnerships and undisclosed conflicts of interest during his early years. Federal regulators are reportedly reviewing several transactions from the 2008-2012 period. No evidence, no named sources, just carefully worded innuendo designed to plant seeds of doubt. Malcolm read it over breakfast. Charles's fingerprints. The old playbook. Victoria called minutes later. He's trying to flip the narrative, make you the villain. Social media filled with coordinated attacks. New accounts. Same talking points. What is Griffin really hiding? This whole incident was staged for a lawsuit. Rich man playing victim for attention. Notice how quickly he hired PR firms? This was planned. Professional disinformation, expensive, effective with certain audiences. Then came the business pressure. Malcolm's primary banker called. Apologetic but firm. Malcolm, this is a difficult conversation. We've received regulatory inquiries about Meridian's lending activities. Until those are resolved, we need to pause your credit facilities. Who initiated the inquiries? I can't disclose that. How much is frozen? $200 million in credit lines, effective immediately. Click. Charles's connections running deep. 50 years of favors being called in simultaneously. But the worst came that evening. Malcolm arrived home to find Vanessa standing in the foyer, face drained of color, hands shaking. Someone delivered this, left it on the doorstep. A plain cardboard box on the table. Inside, a photograph. Their daughter Naomi, 17 years old, walking home from school that afternoon. Clearly taken with a telephoto lens, a red circle drawn around her face. No note. None needed. Malcolm's blood turned to ice. When?
It arrived an hour ago. Security cameras show a delivery van, fake plates. Did you call the police? They said there's not enough for an investigation. No explicit threat, no direct contact, just a photograph. Malcolm stared at his daughter's circled face, everything he was fighting for, everything he could lose. Naomi came home an hour later. She didn't know about the photograph, but she knew about the scandal. The whole school did. Dad, people are saying things. Some support you, but others, they're saying you made it all up. That you staged the whole thing for money, that you're a fraud. Do you believe them? Of course not. Tears forming. But it's so hard. Can't we just make it stop? Let it go? Go back to normal? If I let it go now, the next person won't have anyone to fight for them. But what about us? What about our family? She ran upstairs. Door slamming. Malcolm stood frozen, the weight of it all pressing down. That night, he sat alone in his study. Photograph of Naomi with the red circle. Headlines questioning his integrity. 200 million frozen, family suffering. He called Victoria. Maybe we should stop. Stop? They're targeting my daughter, my family. This isn't worth... Malcolm, listen to me. If you stop now, Charles wins, not just against you, against the 11 people he silenced, against the 31 who filed complaints, against everyone who comes after. But Naomi, I know, I understand. But think about what you'd be teaching her. Silence. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. She'd been listening. Do you want me to stop? Malcolm asked. She sat beside him, took his hand. No. I want to tell you something I've never told anyone. Pause. 20 years ago, before we met, I was a junior associate at a white shoe law firm. A senior partner spilled coffee on me accidentally, called me a diversity hire to my face. Said I didn't belong there. I reported it. 2 weeks later, I was fired. Performance issues. No severance. No reference. Malcolm stared at her. You never told me. Because I was ashamed. I lost. I had no power, no resources, no platform. Nobody believed me. That's why I became a civil rights attorney, to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. She squeezed his hand. You have what I didn't. Money, platform, evidence. If you quit now, I'll understand. But you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And so will I. Malcolm looked at the photograph, at the headlines, at his wife. If anything happens to Naomi, we protect her, together, like we always have. Long silence. Then Malcolm stood. Call Victoria. Call Morgan Webb. We're not stopping. We're accelerating. Day 6. A secure conference room in a neutral law firm. Armed security at every entrance. Bug sweepers running continuously. Malcolm looked around the table at his assembled coalition. Victoria Collins, Titan's general counsel. 3 days without sleep, but sharper than ever. Morgan Webb, the journalist who broke the story. Hungry for the next chapter. Denise Harrington, the insider who betrayed her own blood. Calm. Resolved. Martin Thompson, civil rights attorney. 30 years of class action experience.
6 former Harrington Coal employees, victims, survivors, ready to speak, and one presence no one expected. Eleanor Harrington, 86 years old, walking slowly with her cane, the family matriarch, Charles's own mother. Malcolm rose. Mrs. Harrington, I didn't expect— Neither did I, Mr. Griffin. Her voice was steady despite her age. I'm 86 years old. I've been silent about this family's sins for 60 years. Watching, knowing, saying nothing. She lowered herself into a chair. That silence ends today. The room went quiet. My husband Harold, Charles's father, was exactly like his son. Cruel, racist, controlling. I divorced him in 1983, but I made a terrible choice. I left my son Charles with him. Tears formed in her aged eyes. Charles became a copy of his father. Bradley became a copy of Charles. 3 generations of poison. And I could have stopped it. I could have taken Charles with me, raised him differently. I chose the easier path. She looked directly at Malcolm. That cowardice is my greatest shame. I'm here to finally do what I should have done decades ago. Martin Thompson leaned forward. Mrs. Harrington, would you be willing to testify formally, in court if necessary? I'll do whatever is necessary to end this. The Harrington name has caused enough suffering. Victoria opened her laptop. We have more. Security footage from the gala that the family doesn't know we obtained. The video played on the conference room screen. First sequence. Charles talking with Victor in the corner. Victor's eyes track Malcolm entering the ballroom. Charles nods. Smiles. Second sequence. Victor walks across the room. Approaches Bradley at the bar. Whispers in his ear. Bradley looks toward Malcolm. Smiles. Then walks toward Eleanor's table. Third sequence. The trip. Analyzed frame by frame. Nothing on the floor. No stumble. No loss of balance. Just a deliberate pour. Victor directed Bradley to approach Griffin, Martin Thompson said. This proves coordination. Orchestration. Morgan Webb typed furiously. Charles was the architect. Victor was the handler. Bradley was the weapon. This is a conspiracy captured on video. Bradley may not have known the full plan, Victoria added. But that's exactly the point. Charles knew how his son would behave. He set the stage and let nature take its course. Malcolm spoke quietly. He weaponized their racism, used their prejudice as a tool. Martin Thompson pulled out more documents. Now for the NDAs. I've analyzed all 11 settlement agreements. Every single one is voidable. On what grounds? Fraud. The employees signed NDAs based on the company's representation that these were isolated incidents being handled appropriately. Internal documents prove the company knew it was systematic. They lied to get signatures. That voids the agreements entirely. Angela Williams, one of the former employees, started crying. We can talk? After all these years of being afraid? You can talk. All 11 of you. The NDAs have no legal force. The dam was breaking. Rachel Morrison joined via encrypted video call. For 3 years, I operated under the assumption that Mr. Griffin preferred minimal involvement with HC. That's what I was told. That's what I communicated to Catherine Cole. Who told you that? Victor Morrison, repeatedly. He said HC leadership preferred working through operational channels. That owner involvement would complicate the relationship. That Mr. Griffin should stay behind the scenes for everyone's benefit. And Catherine Cole? She asked to meet the owner several times. I told her Mr. Griffin preferred a hands-off approach, because that's what Victor led me to believe. Malcolm shook his head. He manipulated both ends. Perfect information control. Morgan Webb's comprehensive expose dropped that evening. The Harrington Conspiracy: How a Corporate Dynasty Weaponized Racism for 15 Years,
7 devastating parts. Part 1. 31 buried complaints. Part 2. Charles Harrington's 15-year vendetta. Part 3. Emails proving premeditated orchestration. Part 4. Victor Morrison, the corporate fixer. Part 5. 4.2 million in hush money. Part 6. Eleanor Harrington breaks 60 years of silence. Part 7. Malcolm Griffin, the man they kept invisible. 52 million views in 24 hours. Most read article in the publication's history. Malcolm finally gave his first interview. Morgan asked, "You were silent for nearly 2 weeks while everyone demanded you speak. Why wait until now?" "Because this was never about me. I could have fought this alone. I have the resources, the lawyers, the platform, but 31 other people didn't. They were silenced, paid off, threatened. I waited until they could speak. Now they can." Charles Harrington claims you're conducting a personal vendetta. "Charles spent 15 years planning to destroy me because I won a business deal fairly in 2009. He planted an operative in his own company, orchestrated a racist attack on video, paid 4.2 million to silence 11 victims. That's not my vendetta. That's his legacy." "Any message for Charles?" Malcolm paused, looked into the camera. "He's not worth my words. He's worth my silence." 41 million views in 12 hours. That night, Charles Harrington sat alone in his mansion. Phone silent. Old friends not returning calls. 50 years of connections suddenly unavailable. Victor Morrison's text arrived at midnight. "Resigning effective immediately. You're on your own. Good luck." The rats were leaving the sinking ship. But Charles wasn't finished yet. He had one more card to play. Morning of the emergency board meeting, day 8. Outside Harrington Coal's glass headquarters, something unprecedented was happening. 900 employees had walked off the job, standing on the sidewalk, signs raised. "We stand with the 31, 113 years of silence, no more. 800 mm partner deserves respect. Accountability isn't optional. Fire Charles, fire Brad, fire Victor." News helicopters circled overhead. Camera crews from every network lined the street. Social media live streams accumulated millions of viewers. The Harrington name had never faced anything like this. Across the street, Denise Harrington held a press conference. "My name is Denise Harrington. I am Bradley's sister, Charles's daughter. I have been complicit in this family's abuse for 30 years through my silence. That complicity ends today." Cameras flashed. "I am formally joining the lawsuit against Harrington Coal Industries. I will testify against my own father and brother, not because I hate them, because I love what this company could be. And that future requires truth." A reporter called out, "Why now? Why come forward after all these years?" Denise paused. "Because Malcolm Griffin refused to be invisible. He stood there with wine dripping down his face and didn't flinch. If he has the courage to stand after everything this family did to him, I have no excuse to keep hiding." Inside the boardroom, 12 board members sat in weighted silence. Charles Harrington stood, 76 years old, defiant to the end. "Before we proceed with the formal agenda, I have an announcement. I am stepping down from all positions, effective immediately." Murmurs around the table. However, Charles raised his hand. "My son Bradley bears no responsibility for my decisions. He acted on the culture I created. He should not be punished for my failures. Let me carry the burden alone." Bradley stared at his father, something shifting behind his eyes. "Father, the blame is mine, Bradley. Let me protect you." For a moment, it almost seemed noble, a father sacrificing for his son. Then Bradley stood. "No." The room froze. "Excuse me?"
No. Bradley's voice was stronger than anyone had ever heard it. You're not protecting me. You're protecting the Harrington legacy, using me as your shield, like always. He turned to face the full board. My father told Victor Morrison to approach me at the gala. Victor whispered that an outsider needed to learn his place. I didn't know who Malcolm Griffin was, but I knew exactly what I was doing. His voice cracked. I chose to humiliate another human being. Because I could. Because no one had ever stopped me. Because I believed I had the right. That's not culture, that's character. My character. He looked at his father. I don't deserve protection, and I don't want it. Charles reached for him. Bradley, my entire life I tried to make you proud, followed your rules, adopted your prejudices, your hatreds. Look where it's led. Bradley faced the board one final time. I vote to remove myself from all positions, effective immediately. Silence. Catherine Cole spoke. Motion to remove Charles Harrington from all board positions and revoke his voting shares. Seconded. Vote 8-1. Charles voting alone in his own defense. Motion to accept Bradley Harrington's voluntary resignation and bar him from future positions. Vote. Unanimous. Bradley voted against himself. Charles Harrington, 76 years old, architect of decades of systematic abuse, stripped of everything he'd built. Bradley Harrington, 51 years old, finally standing against his own father, walked out voluntarily. Father and son, both destroyed, one by justice, one by conscience. As Bradley passed Charles, the old man grabbed his arm. You're throwing away everything I built for you. Bradley looked at his father, really looked. You never built anything for me. You built a prison. And I'm finally walking out. The door closed behind him. Charles stood alone. For the first time in his life, he had no one left to control. The press conference assembled on the steps of Harrington Cole headquarters. Cameras from every continent, journalists from every major outlet, live feeds to 100 million screens worldwide. Catherine Cole approached the microphone, composed, resolute. Harrington Coal Industries announces the immediate removal of Charles Harrington from all board positions and the permanent revocation of his voting shares. Bradley Harrington has voluntarily resigned all positions. Victor Morrison has been terminated and referred to the state bar for disciplinary proceedings. She paused, gathered herself. We will fully cooperate with all federal and state investigations. Settlement negotiations with the 31 identified victims are underway and will be concluded fairly and expeditiously. She looked directly into the cameras. On a personal note, I owe Malcolm Griffin an apology that words cannot adequately express. What happened to him was inexcusable. But the greater failure is that we didn't know our biggest partner's face after 3 years of working together. That failure indicts our entire corporate culture. That culture changes today. The crowd murmured. Then Eleanor Harrington stepped forward. 86 years old, moving slowly with her cane, the matriarch of a dynasty, about to condemn her own bloodline before the world. My name is Eleanor Harrington. I have been part of this family for 65 years. Wife, mother, grandmother, and for most of those years, I was a silent witness to cruelty. Her voice trembled, but didn't break. My husband Harold was a racist, a bully, a cruel man who passed his hatred to our son Charles. I divorced Harold in 1983, but I made the worst decision of my life. I left my son behind. Tears ran down her weathered face. Charles became his father. Bradley became Charles. 3 generations of poison, and I could have stopped it. I could have fought harder. I chose silence instead. She gripped the microphone stand. To every person my family has harmed,
I am sorry. Those words are not enough. Nothing is enough. But I pray my testimony helps end what my cowardice allowed to continue. The crowd fell silent. Then a black sedan pulled up. The door opened. Malcolm Griffin stepped out. The crowd parted. Cameras swiveled. 100 million viewers leaned closer to their screens. He walked to the microphone, unhurried, unbroken. I have a brief statement. Silence.
Titan Logistics will continue its partnership with Harrington Coal Industries. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The partnership will continue under new leadership, with new culture commitments, with independent oversight, with accountability mechanisms that have teeth. A reporter shouted, "Why? After everything they did to you?" Malcolm paused. 12,000 people work for Harrington Coal. 12,000 families depend on those paychecks. They are not responsible for their leadership's sins. Destroying this partnership would destroy their livelihoods. I won't punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. He looked into the cameras. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's power. The power to move forward instead of remaining trapped in the past. The power to choose who you become, regardless of what others did to you. Any message for Charles Harrington? Malcolm considered the question for a long moment. He's not worth my message. He's worth my silence. He turned, walked back to his car, drove away. The crowd erupted, commentary exploded. But Malcolm was already gone. That evening, Charles sat in his family's mansion, alone in the dark. His phone showed the press conference playing on loop, his mother apologizing for him, his son rejecting his protection, his enemy showing mercy he didn't deserve. Everything he'd spent 50 years building, gone in 8 days. His driver appeared. "Where to, Mr. Harrington?" "Home." The word echoed empty. Later that night, footsteps in the hallway. Bradley appeared in the study doorway. Charles didn't look up. "Come to gloat? Come to say goodbye." "Goodbye?" "I'm leaving, Father. The company, the family, the name, all of it." "And going where?" "Anywhere that isn't here." Bradley stood in the doorway, neither in nor out. "I'm 51 years old. I just realized I've spent my entire life trying to become you, studying you, imitating you, seeking your approval." He shook his head. "Look, and you? You're empty. You built nothing that lasts, nothing but fear. I built an empire. You built a prison, for everyone around you, for me, for yourself." Bradley turned to leave. "I'm done serving my sentence." "Bradley." Charles's voice cracked. 76 years of walls crumbling. "You're my only son." Bradley paused at the door, didn't turn around. "And you're my only father. That's the tragedy." The door closed. Charles sat in the darkness. Silence. For the first time in his life, there was no one left to blame. No one left to hurt. No one left at all. Just an old man, alone with his legacy of ash. 6 months later. The legal outcomes were finalized. Charles Harrington pled guilty to conspiracy charges. No prison sentence due to age and health. Banned from all corporate boards for life. $25 million fine. Reputation permanently destroyed. Last seen living alone in a smaller house. No visitors. Victor Morrison, disbarred. 18 months in federal prison for fraud and conspiracy. Career over. Name synonymous with corruption. Bradley Harrington. No criminal charges. Cooperated fully with all investigations. 500 hours of community service. Last seen working at a youth mentoring program in Detroit, learning what work actually means. The 31 victims, $142 million settlement. All NDAs declared void.
Many testified before Congress about corporate accountability, laws being drafted in their names. Harrington Coal Industries, new board, new culture, new beginning. Ray Bell remained as CEO. Titan Partnership renewed for 5 years with Independent Oversight Committee. Malcolm Griffin stood at a podium, cameras flashing. Today, I'm announcing the establishment of the Griffin Accountability Foundation. Initial funding, $100 million, $60 million from my personal funds, $40 million from coalition partners. He looked at the assembled crowd. The foundation will provide legal support for workers facing discrimination, fund research into corporate accountability, advocate for policy reforms, ensure that what happened to me and to 31 others becomes harder to repeat. He paused. I was lucky. I had resources when I was attacked. Money, lawyers, platform. Most victims don't. This foundation exists for them. 1 week later, Malcolm's home. Early morning light. He stood in his closet, reached to the very back, the white shirt, carefully preserved. Wine stains still faintly visible despite the washing. Naomi appeared in the doorway, 17 years old, stronger than before. Why do you keep that? To remember. Remember what? Malcolm held the shirt up to the light, looked at the stains. That sometimes the worst moments in your life lead to the best changes. And that standing up, even when you're terrified, is always worth it. Naomi hugged him. I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you, for standing with me through all of it. 1 year later, an email arrived, encrypted, anonymous. Subject, patterns you should see. Mr. Griffin, what happened at Harrington Coal is not unique. Attached, data on 23 Fortune 500 companies with similar patterns. Systematic discrimination, NDAs silencing victims, cover-ups reaching the highest levels. Someone needs to shine a light. I believe that someone is you. Attachment, 23 files, 23 companies, thousands of potential victims. Malcolm read it twice, forwarded it to Victoria Collins. Subject line, we have more work to do. He stood at his window, city spread below. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. $800 million, 31 victims, 113 years of dynasty, all changed because one man refused to be invisible. If this story meant something to you, drop 800M in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Systems don't change themselves. People change them. The next one could be you.